Start your engines.
This July, Tennessee's governor proudly shared on Instagram the moment the state welcomed more than 20,000 fans to Bristol Motor Speedway.
It's All-Star Night in Bristol.
Nothing would stop the NASCAR All-Star race, not even this.
I'm going to give you a countdown.
Just 5 days before the race, local officials announced new deaths and the sudden spike in COVID-19 cases in the county where the race was being held.
And only this week have we seen those double-digit increases and the doubling and doubling and doubling.
The public was now ordered to wear masks in most public spaces.
You know, if this action can save one life, it's well worth it.
The NASCAR race would become the largest in-person gathering in America since the pandemic set in. For more than 30 years, the premier racing event called Charlotte, North Carolina home, but it was deemed too dangerous to hold with fans there during this year's pandemic.
That one is driven to left field.
And they score!
Tennessee officials opened their arms, even as other major league sports played to empty crowds or cardboard cutouts. New documents and emails that Newsy obtained paint the clearest picture yet of just how Tennessee brought fans back to large sporting events in the U.S. And they raise questions about whether economic benefits were prioritized over health risks. The state's tourism commissioner told officials a successful event will hopefully provide the state an advantage to host this event for years to come. But just 3 weeks out from the big race, a problem. The Bristol Motor Speedway wanted access to tax dollars through a new state act that would give them a cut of the taxes raised at the event through sales of things like beer and T-shirts. The state had never actually used the act, and there were some objections. But the Speedway gave the state an ultimatum. When our parent company began considering the possibility of moving the All-Star race to Bristol, we immediately realized that the Event Tourism Act could make the difference in choosing Bristol over sister tracks in Atlanta, New Hampshire, and Texas. If our company needs to reconsider the decision to move the All-Star race to Bristol due to a narrow and we believe incorrect reading of the statute, please let us know as soon as possible. Texas has been especially aggressive in the past. 4 days later, the state approved the request. But right at the same time, NASCAR and another speedway in Alabama promised the public to limit travel and risk by selling tickets only to people who live close. The raceway in Tennessee bolstered its bid for tax dollars by telling officials that even in the midst of a pandemic, an estimated 78% of visitors would come from out of state or out of the country. All people forecast to stay in hotels, eat in restaurants, and go shopping. Then the day before the race, the Speedway told the public,
while we're expecting a lot of folks to come, we know that most of these people are coming from right here in our region.
In a statement to Newsy, the Speedway explained, our estimates provided to the state were based on traditional race event data that we have established on race weekends. The video was taped closer to the event date when we had actual data on ticket sales. It's data the Speedway has so far not released. But on Twitter, Newsy saw multiple examples of fans who did appear to cross state lines. One tweeted about traversing 6 states and more than 500 miles to get to Bristol. The Speedway did promise social distancing, fewer fans, and used public service announcements like this.
As you approach the gates, maintain social distancing and follow signage throughout the facility. And you are required to wear a face mask.
Bristol,
it's
boys.
Bristol, baby.
Let's do this.
And health experts say controlling the spread of disease is difficult in this kind of setting.
When you shout and you scream, you essentially give these droplets superpowers.
Dr. Peter Chin Hong is an infectious disease expert at the University of California, San Francisco.
So they can remain suspended in air for longer, but most importantly, can project the virus further.
I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to watch it on TV.
Dr. David Kershke is the medical director for the Northeast region of the Tennessee Health Department, which reported spikes in cases in nearly every surrounding county after the race. Officials never linked any COVID clusters to the race, but the Tennessee Health Department confirmed to Newsy it still does not know the source of more than half of the state's coronavirus cases. And Kershke says the cases were likely there.
What about the headlines that would just simply say that there are no links, so there's nothing really to worry about? Maybe it worked.
We aren't able to follow all those cases back to where they all came from, but those people that work in those, places might not have known that the person was there from the race or even who they were in contact with. So unfortunately, there's no way to really track that. We did not necessarily detect a large spike in cases. It was kind of buried in the whole increase of cases we had going on at that time.
The Tennessee Finance Commissioner declined an interview and so far won't say how much money the race brought into the state or how much they might have to pay the racetrack owners. Mark Greenblatt, Newsy, outside Washington, D.C.